I spent most of my life saying yes. Yes to people I didn't want to disappoint. Yes to things I didn't even enjoy. Yes to staying quiet when deep down I wanted to speak up. And the truth is, I thought that was the right thing to do. I thought being agreeable meant I was being kind. But then I turned 60, and something changed. I started looking at my time and energy like something sacred, because it is. After 60, every moment feels more valuable. And I realized I couldn't keep giving myself away to everyone and everything. That's when I started learning a new kind of freedom, the freedom of saying no. And let me tell you, no is not a bad word. No is a boundary. No is self-respect. No is peace of mind. Today, I want to share with you the 9 things I finally started saying no to after I turned 60, not out of bitterness, not out of selfishness, but out of love for my time, my health, and my peace. These changes didn't happen overnight, but one small no at a time. I began to feel like myself again. If you've ever felt stretched thin, taken for granted, or just plain tired, I hope this speaks to you, because this is not about regrets. This is about reclaiming your life. Let's begin. 1. Saying no to people-pleasing. For most of my life, I was what people would call a nice guy. I said yes to just about everything. Need a ride to the airport at 5 in the morning? Sure. Want me to host Thanksgiving even though I'm exhausted? Absolutely. Can I babysit the grandkids every single weekend? Of course. The truth is, I said yes because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I thought if I kept everyone else happy, then I'd be happy too. But what I didn't realize was that every yes I gave away without meaning it was a little piece of me being chipped off. After I turned 60, something inside me started to shift. I began to notice how tired I was all the time, not just physically, but emotionally. I'd find myself agreeing to things with a smile, but then grumbling to myself the whole time I was doing them. I wasn't showing up fully because part of me resented being there in the first place. That's when I realized saying yes when you mean no isn't kindness. It's dishonesty, not just to others, but to yourself. It took practice. I still remember the first time I said no and meant it. My neighbor asked me to help with a weekend project, and I was already feeling wiped out. I opened my mouth to say yes like I always did, but something stopped me. I took a breath and said, "You know what? I need to rest this weekend, maybe another time." And you know what happened? Nothing bad. He said, "No problem, I understand." And that was it. The world didn't fall apart. I didn't lose a friend. In fact, I felt respected for the first time in a long time. What I've learned is that when you stop people-pleasing, you start truth-telling, and that truth sets you free. It allows your yes to actually mean something. People start to trust you more because you're no longer just saying what they want to hear. You're speaking honestly from the heart. And more importantly, you start to trust yourself. Now, when someone asks something of me, I pause. I check in with myself. Do I really want to do this? Can I do it without draining myself? If the answer is no, I don't force a yes. I've learned that my time is valuable. My energy is precious, and saying no doesn't make me mean. It makes me human. So, if you've ever found yourself exhausted from doing too much for others and too little for yourself, I hope you hear this clearly. You do not owe anyone your peace of mind. You are allowed to choose yourself without guilt. Saying no doesn't mean you're pushing people away. It means you're making space for the right things and the right people to come closer. That's not selfish. That's wisdom. 2. Saying no to guilt trips. Guilt. That sneaky little emotion that shows up in the voices of others, and sometimes in our own heads. I know it well. Growing up, guilt was like a family tradition. If you really loved us, you'd show up. We haven't seen you in weeks. What could possibly be more important? You're retired now. You've got the time. Sound familiar? Even after I turned 60, guilt still had its hooks in me. I remember one weekend, I had finally planned 2 quiet days to myself. No errands, no visits, just rest. That Saturday morning, my cousin Linda called. "We're having a big family cookout this weekend. You're coming, right?" I hesitated. I wanted to say no. I needed to say no. But there it was, that tight feeling in my chest, that fear of disappointing someone. And before I knew it, I was saying, "Sure, I'll be there." I showed up. I smiled. I helped clean up. But the whole time, I felt like a ghost, tired, burned out, not really present. That was the turning point. I realized guilt is not a healthy reason to do anything. Doing something just to avoid feeling bad. That's not joy. That's pressure. And the truth is, if someone makes you feel guilty for taking care of yourself, they're not respecting your boundaries. They're prioritizing their needs over your well-being. That's not love. That's control, even if it's unintentional. Now, when guilt shows up, I try to pause. I ask myself, am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid of how someone will react if I say no? If it's fear driving the decision, I step back. I remind myself that I have a right to choose how I spend my time. And more often than not, when I do say no with kindness and clarity, people respect it. And if they don't, that's their issue to work through, not mine. You don't have to explain yourself endlessly. You don't have to defend your boundaries. A simple, honest, "I can't this time, but thank you for thinking of me," is more than enough. If they care about you, they'll understand. And if they don't, then maybe it's time to reevaluate that relationship. Guilt is heavy, and carrying it around day after day can weigh down your spirit. After 60, you deserve lightness. You deserve peace. And peace doesn't come from trying to keep everyone happy. It comes from honoring what you need without apology. So say no to guilt. Say yes to balance. Yes to boundaries. Yes to peace of mind. That's not just aging with grace. It's living with strength. 3. Saying no to overcommitting. I used to believe that being busy meant I was important. My calendar was always packed. Doctor appointments, helping the kids, committee meetings, family events, church gatherings, everything. I wore my overcommitment like a badge of honor. People would say, "You're always so involved." And I'd smile, even as my back ached and my patience wore thin. But deep down, I was tired. Not the kind of tired you fix with a nap. The kind of tired that comes from giving too much of yourself away over and over without leaving anything for you. The shift came slowly. One evening, I was looking at my planner, trying to squeeze in a lunch with an old friend, but there was just no room. That's when it hit me. I was booked solid, but not for anything that actually filled my cup. I had become a professional caretaker, a full-time helper, a yes man on autopilot. And I was disappearing in the process. So I started practicing something radical. Leaving space. I began blocking off entire days with one word: nothing. I protected those days like gold. I said no to extra responsibilities, no to overextending myself, and yes to rest. Real rest. Sitting outside with a book, taking an afternoon nap, walking with no agenda. Just breathing, being, living. It wasn't easy at first. I felt guilty, lazy even. But over time, I began to feel more like myself. I laughed more. I listened better. I felt present. And the most surprising part? People didn't stop asking me to do things, but they started respecting my time more when I said no. I wasn't the always available one anymore. I was the intentional one, the thoughtful one, the one who showed up when it mattered, not just when it was expected. You don't need to fill every hour of your day to live a meaningful life. In fact, the most meaningful moments often happen in the quiet spaces, those unscheduled, unhurried hours where you can hear your own thoughts again. If you've been stretching yourself thin, always trying to keep up, maybe it's time to slow down, to choose quality over quantity, to protect your time like the treasure it truly is. Because after 60, every day is a chance not just to exist, but to live well. Cure 4. Saying no to toxic conversations. I used to think it was my job to keep the peace, stay in the room, smile politely, and listen, even when everything inside me was saying, "This is not good for you." Whether it was heated political debates at family dinners or mean-spirited gossip at community gatherings, I would just sit there nodding, waiting for it to be over. But you know what I've learned? There's a quiet kind of harm in staying silent in toxic spaces. Even if you're not speaking, just being there can wear you down. There's a man I've known for years. We'll call him Frank. Every time we met up for coffee, the conversation always turned bitter. Complaints about the world, negative talk about people we both knew, constant arguing. I'd leave those conversations feeling drained, like someone had reached in and pulled the joy right out of me. One day, as I was walking home, I stopped mid-step and thought, why am I still doing this? I didn't owe Frank my time. I didn't need to sit through hours of negativity just to be polite. So, the next time he called, I told him the truth, not in anger, but from a place of care. I said, "Frank, I've realized that I need to protect my peace these days. I care about you, but I can't keep having the same draining conversations. I hope you understand." It wasn't easy, and he didn't take it well at first, but I didn't regret it, because for the first time in years, I felt free. Now I don't argue with people just to prove a point. I don't stay in rooms where the energy feels heavy or harmful. I excuse myself, I change the subject, and sometimes I simply choose not to engage at all. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. There's a quote I heard once that stuck with me. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm, and that includes your peace of mind. Your mental and emotional well-being matter, especially as you get older. You have every right to walk away from conversations that leave you feeling smaller, angrier, or more anxious than you were before. Saying no to toxic conversations doesn't mean you're avoiding reality. It means you're choosing to focus on what uplifts, what heals, and what brings you closer to the kind of life you actually want. And isn't that what this season of life is really about? 5. Saying no to self-criticism. There's a moment I remember clear as day. I was standing in front of the bathroom mirror one morning, shirt off, brushing my teeth, when I caught a glimpse of myself. My shoulders were slouched, my belly a little softer than it used to be, skin spotted with age and time. And before I even had time to think, the words came rushing in. "You've let yourself go." Just like that. I hadn't even said good morning to myself, and already I was judging. That voice in our head, the one that's so quick to point out our flaws, that's a voice I've carried with me for decades. I picked it up in my 30s when I felt like I wasn't achieving enough. I held on to it in my 40s when I compared myself to others. And by the time I hit 60, it had become so familiar, I barely noticed it was there. Until one day, I asked myself, would I speak to anyone else the way I speak to myself? The answer was no, not in a million years. So I decided to try something different. Instead of criticizing, I began to offer kindness. At first, it felt awkward. I'd look in the mirror and say things like, "You've come a long way," or "You're still here, and that means something." I wasn't lying to myself. I was simply choosing to see the full picture. This body of mine, with its scars and aches and changes, it has carried me through a lifetime. through sleepless nights with newborns, long days at work, sudden losses, big joys, and quiet mornings. Every wrinkle has a story. Every gray hair has earned its place. Self-kindness isn't about ignoring your struggles. It's about honoring your strength. It's about trading that critical voice for a compassionate one. And it takes practice. There are still days when the old voice tries to creep back in, but now I catch it. I pause. And I remind myself that being older doesn't mean being less. It means being more. You've lived more, learned more, survived more. If you find yourself picking yourself apart, especially as you age, I want you to hear this. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be loved, just as you are. Not 10 pounds lighter, not 10 years younger. Just you here and now, breathing, living, trying. And if no one's told you this lately, let me be the first. You are doing better than you think. And you deserve to treat yourself with the same kindness you've given to so many others over the years. 6. Saying no to unhealthy habits. When I was younger, I thought I was invincible. I could eat a cheeseburger at midnight and still wake up early. Full of energy? Skip a few nights of sleep? No problem. Exercise? I'll get to it one day. But after 60, the consequences start catching up to you. The aches linger a little longer. The energy takes a little more time to return. And those habits that once felt harmless start to weigh you down. For me, it wasn't one big wake-up call. It was a slow realization. I'd feel sluggish in the afternoons. My joints hurt more than usual. I was always a little tired, a little off. And still, I kept making excuses. I'm too old to start now. I've lived this way for decades, what's the point? But deep down, I knew better. I knew that just because I was older didn't mean I couldn't still make changes. And not to chase youth, but to protect my now. So, I started small. I swapped out my nightly chips for a handful of almonds. I began walking every evening, even if it was just for 15 minutes. I stretched in the mornings. I drank more water. Nothing extreme. Just consistent choices that honored my body instead of punishing it. And something amazing happened. I started to feel lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. I felt proud, empowered, in control again. I wasn't chasing some impossible health goal. I was simply choosing to show up for myself day by day. Saying no to unhealthy habits doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It just means you stop letting convenience run the show. You stop letting that voice in your head say, "It's too late." Because it's not too late. If you're breathing, it's not too late. Start where you are, with what you have. Maybe that means cutting back on sugar. Maybe it means walking to the mailbox instead of driving. Maybe it just means going to bed 30 minutes earlier. Whatever it is, do it not because you hate your body, but because you respect it, because you want to keep showing up for the people you love, and for yourself. At this age, we don't need crash diets or impossible routines. We need gentle strength. We need consistency. And we need to believe that we are still worth the effort. 7. Saying no to financial pressure from family. This one isn't easy to talk about, because when it comes to family, the heart gets involved, and when your heart's involved, your wallet usually follows. For a long time, I believed it was my responsibility to help. Always. When the kids needed something, I'd step in. When someone in the family struggled, I'd pull from my savings. And I did it gladly, at first. But over the years, it started to wear on me. I'd find myself lying awake at night, doing the math in my head. Can I still afford that trip I've been dreaming of? What about medical bills down the road? I never wanted my loved ones to struggle. But I began to realize something important. I was starting to struggle too. There's this quiet pressure that can build up after 60. People assume you've got it all figured out, that your retirement means you have endless resources. But the truth is, many of us are living on fixed incomes, and the cost of living just keeps climbing. Every dollar you give away has to come from somewhere, usually your own future. I remember a moment that really stuck with me. My youngest son asked for help with a down payment. It was a big ask. I love him, and I want him to succeed. But I also knew that giving him that money would mean dipping into the savings I've built carefully over decades. I paused, took a deep breath, and I said, I want to help you, but I also need to be honest about what I can and cannot afford. I have to take care of myself too. He didn't respond well at first. He was disappointed, maybe even hurt. But with time, he came to understand, and I felt peace. Saying no financially doesn't mean you're being selfish. It means you're being responsible. You can still support your loved ones in other ways. Share your wisdom. Offer emotional encouragement. Help them find solutions. But don't empty your cup just to fill someone else's. You've spent a lifetime giving. You've earned the right to enjoy your retirement without guilt. To take that trip. To fix the roof. To buy the little things that make your days brighter. Saying no, especially to the people you love, is hard. But sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do. Because if you don't take care of your own future, no one else will. And your peace of mind? That's priceless. Mercury 8. Saying a no to loneliness and yes to connection. Loneliness is a quiet thing. It doesn't always show up with tears or sad music playing in the background. Sometimes it just sneaks in during the silence. After retirement, after the kids move out, after a spouse passes. It can sit with you at the kitchen table in the morning or echo through the house in the evening. And the strange thing is, you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. I've been there. After my wife passed, the house felt too quiet. The phone didn't ring as often. Friends got busy or moved away. I found myself scrolling through old photos more than I'd like to admit. For a while, I let loneliness take over. I convinced myself that this was just how it is now, that people my age are supposed to feel like this. But that was a lie. The truth is, we are not meant to do this life alone. No matter your age, connection is a basic human need, and it doesn't have to be big or dramatic. Sometimes it starts with a small step. Saying yes to a coffee with a neighbor, joining a local walking group, calling someone you haven't spoken to in years, volunteering at a food bank or library, even smiling and saying hello at the grocery store. It matters. The hardest part is getting started. Reaching out when you feel down takes courage. But I promise you, there are people out there looking for connection. Just like you. People who would be grateful to hear from you. People who want to be seen, just like you do. I had an old friend named Harold. We lost touch for years. One day I picked up the phone, called him, and said, I miss you. Want to catch up? That one phone call brought years of friendship back to life, and now we talk every week. I say no to loneliness by saying yes to little moments like that. If you're listening to this and feeling alone, please hear me. It is never too late to build new connections. You are not forgotten. You're not invisible. And you don't have to wait for someone else to make the first move. You can be the one to reach out. So, say no to loneliness. Say yes to opening your heart, one small act at a time. Because connection is not just a luxury, it's a lifeline. 9. Saying no to fear of time running out. After I turned 60, I found myself thinking about time a lot more. Not just what day it was, but how many days might be left. It's a strange feeling, being so aware of the clock. Birthdays started to feel heavier. The calendar flipped faster. And I'll admit, sometimes fear would creep in. Fear that I hadn't done enough. Fear that it was too late to try something new. Fear that the best parts of life were already behind me. But over time, I began to ask myself, what does fear really give me? It doesn't protect me. It doesn't motivate me. It only robs me of the joy that's still right in front of me. I realized that fearing the end only makes me miss the beauty of the middle. So now I say no to that fear. Not because I have all the answers, but because I choose to live fully while I can. I started saying yes to things I used to put off. I took a road trip by myself for the first time in my life. Just me, the open road, and my favorite music. I joined a watercolor class at the community center. I even started writing letters to my grandchildren. Real letters with stamps and envelopes, so they'll always have a piece of me, long after I'm gone. Fear wants to tell us it's too late, but I'm here to tell you, it's not. As long as there's breath in your lungs, there is life to be lived. Don't waste today worrying about tomorrow. Don't let fear of the future steal the gift of now. I've stopped measuring life by how much time I have left. I measure it by how deeply I can feel, how fully I can love, how honestly I can live. Whether you're 60, 70, or 90, there's still room to grow, to laugh, to explore, to surprise yourself. Say no to the fear of time running out. Say yes to showing up today with your whole heart, because this moment, right now, is the only one guaranteed, and it's worth living.